statement, and then we'll open up for questions.
In another 6 months, I'll figure out the mute and the unmute. How's that for an opening statement? Welcome, everybody. Thanks again for joining us virtually, and hope everybody's doing well. Just to recap Virginia, proud of so many things in that game. We played that game the way we had to play it. Offensively, we made some big plays. It was great to see Torian, Donovan, Taylor, Ja'Cory all contribute with big plays. I thought our offensive line played very well, very consistent. I think that's a group that's really developing and getting better. Sam played extremely well. And, we didn't run the ball consistently early, but it was nice to see us pop one late and then run it when we had to down inside the red zone. And so I thought on offense, we played very efficient, pretty clean. Our special teams made a big difference in the game. I think Ivan Mora had his best day ever as a deacon punter for us. Consistently 45, 50, good hang time, placed the ball where we needed it placed. Nick Skiba was kind of, back to almost the unfair standard that we expect, that he was 4 for 4 and just looked back in a rhythm. And Jack Crane, executed those sky kicks beautifully. And those were really big plays. And then defensively, first of all, credit to Virginia. We didn't know who we were going to see. And it's almost like we had to get through the storm. 3 different quarterbacks. They were doing different things with all 3. We were really unsettled there. We kind of had an Armstrong game plan, and then we had a Stone game plan. And we certainly weren't prepared for what they did. And that's credit to Virginia and Bronco and his staff for innovating and finding ways to move the football when they're down their starting quarterback. But I thought our defensive staff and our players did one of the best jobs that we've done in the last couple of years here of making adjustments at halftime and then executing those adjustments. And really, if it's not for a foolish penalty on a kickoff return, probably we should have shut them out in the second half. But I think our corners are playing really well. Jasir Taylor and Kalen Carson both had really good games for us. A number of guys in our defensive line, Boogie, Miles Fox, made just incredible hustle plays. Those plays that when you watch the film, just makes you proud to be a coach, that you have guys playing with that much effort, relentless, making plays they really shouldn't make just because they're playing hard and pursuing. And what happened in that game is that was really a game between 2 very evenly matched teams, and it just became a game of plays. And we were fortunate to have the long run and recover the fumble on the sky kick. And that was really the difference in the game, and it's 1 or 2 plays that in my mind, that we didn't make at NC State. Very similar game, and credit to NC State. In that game, they made those handful of plays in the fourth quarter, which allowed them to win the game. And, fortunately for us last week against Virginia, we made those handful of plays, whether, again, the long run, the kickoff fumble, the Kalen Carson interception, all those were plays that really took a dead even game and made it a 17-point win. So again, proud of our guys, but that's how we have to play. When we win ACC games, that's how we win them. They're usually fourth quarter, we win the turnover battle and we make some plays in the end. So we're going to have to do the same this week against Virginia Tech. They're probably playing as well as anybody in the conference right now, maybe outside of Clemson. Justin, I think, doesn't get the credit he deserves for adjusting and adapting his offense the last 2 years. If you look at what they were doing in the first half of last season and now what they did in the second half and now how they've adjusted their offense to fit their personnel, he's really done a very masterful and innovative job of adjusting to his strengths. They've got a big physical O-line. They've got a running back that's playing as well as anybody in the country right now, in Herbert. He's averaging almost 10 yards a carry, which I've never seen that this deep into a season. He's a home run hitter. He's a load. He's got a great stiff arm. He's very hard to tackle. Hooker, the last 6 quarters is just playing incredible, throwing the ball well, such a elusive runner. He's fast, he's strong, he's powerful. He does a really nice job on their power read scheme. And again, it's not like he's just a runner. He throws the ball very efficiently as well. They've got a big O-line, and then they've got really good skill. Trey Turner, Robinson, Smith, as a collection of receivers is really a good group. One of the players that I think is really special for them is their tight end, Mitchell. This guy does everything for them. He's a tight end. He's a slot. He's an outside receiver. They'll hand him the football in the backfield. He allows them to line up in a personnel group and make it a different group. So you think it's 2 tight ends, but then he plays receiver. So it makes it really difficult to call defenses against, and everything they do is extremely well thought out. They have an answer for whatever you're going to present. So this is this is going to be a real challenge for us defensively because of the scheme and the talent level. In defense, they're getting healthy. So I think that the defense you saw against BC was a dramatically different defense than you saw against North Carolina. They've got some guys healthy now. Certainly Diablo, who's a Winston-Salem native. He's from right around the corner here. He missed the first few games. And, now that he's back, it's really changed their secondary. So, again, this is an excellent football team, one of the best teams in the ACC. And what makes it even more challenging is I think this is one of the best coached special teams units we play against. They got known for Beamer ball, and Frank Beamer obviously isn't the head coach anymore, but their tradition of great special teams is still intact. Their ability to execute specialty kicks, their ability, when you try to sky kick it against them or pooch it or things, they have answers. Everything they do is so well thought out. And every year we think this is one of the best coached special teams units we face against. So we're going to have to play really well in all 3 phases. We're going to have to play hard. And this is going to be a very challenging game for us. But I think after Virginia, we have some confidence. I believe our team is improving. Like I said in the beginning, I think we have to be an ascending football team this year. I'm seeing growth at our receiver position, our O-line position, and our secondary. And our guys are excited to play finally 2 weeks in a row. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Dave, you guys have averaged 49 points over your last 3 games. Is 49 points might not be enough in this game because
don't say that.
Both teams can really score some points. I mean, are you thinking it's going to be a shootout?
Well, you never know. I mean, I'm hoping we can hold them to less than 49, but people have had a hard time doing that. So whatever it takes. Certainly, I don't expect this to be the same game that we played against them in 2014. So, but you never know. I mean, I think we're getting better on defense, but this is also a different challenge. And again, just their skill level and the level at which they're playing right now. They're averaging 312 yards a game rushing the football. I've never seen a non-triple option team do that before. So, we tell the offense whatever it takes. The goal, quite simply, is to score 1 more point than them, and whether it's 6-3 or 50-49, I'd be happy with either outcome.
Dave, you've mentioned a couple times now in the last couple of weeks that you want this team to be an ascending football team. Would would that have still been possible if it wasn't for the couple plays that Kenneth Walker made? And is it just that narrow of a margin between being 1-3 and,
Well, there's,
being a
I
second
mean,
football team?
again, Connor, if we didn't win that game, and let's say Kenneth Walker doesn't break that run off and they block a punt and score and they win, it doesn't change the fact that our secondary played better. It doesn't change the fact that our top 4 receivers all made plays on deep balls. Doesn't change the fact that we protected well on the O-line. We come back every game, win or loss, and we grade the tape. And, we graded out better than we did against Campbell in terms of guys getting aligned correctly, being the right assignment, the right technique. And to beat Virginia, we had to. I think I have a lot of respect for Virginia. They won the Coastal a year ago. They had 37 juniors and seniors. In my opinion, that's a really well-coached, good football team that's used to winning. And if we didn't play better, we could have played better and still lost that game. But you're right, from a record standpoint, if we were 1-3, we still were ascending in positions. Our corner play, Jasir Taylor and Kalen Carson played their best. Both of those guys played their best game of the year. And whether we won or lost wouldn't have changed that. So, when I say ascending, we have 9 new starters on offense. Our secondary is completely different than a year ago, in part because of graduation and in part because of injuries. And when I see those guys getting better and improving, that's a good sign for our football program. Now, against Virginia Tech, with the level that they're playing at right now, I'd say we probably are going to have to grade out even higher and play at a higher level to come out of this week 3-2.
Hey, Dave, at what point in fall camp did it become apparent to you and the staff that Nick Anderson was going to be somebody that would at least be in the rotation and be somebody you could rely on this season? And then second, how the heck did you guys find him and everybody in Virginia not pick up on him?
Well, he had been at one of our camps, and so we just stayed in touch with them. And Greg Jones did a really nice job of keeping in touch with him and letting him know our interest. And he was somebody that we thought could play. And sometimes in camp, you go into this and you think you're in great shape at safety. You have Luke Masterson and Nasir Greer back, and then you have Kobe Davis and Trey Rucker back. And what happens in camp is, those guys, Nasir missed some reps. We got injured at corner, so we moved Kobe to corner for a while. Trey Rucker was coming off of an injury. And then, we did these split practices in the beginning of the year, really for COVID reasons, to try to give those guys more reps. And I don't know in a normal camp if we would have discovered him. It was almost because we split the practices and we were able to give him starting reps in the starting practice, and he just made plays and he picked up the defense and he was really vocal with the checks. And then I think the first thing you do is when you lose starters, your first option is to always put someone in that knows what they're doing, that can get aligned. And before you can help us win, you got to make sure the person can get aligned and doesn't get you beat. And he's so smart and instinctive that he could get lined up. And then he just kept coming on. And Lyle Hemphill just at some point in camp said, this guy's going to help us this year, regardless of what our injury situation is. He's certainly playing more than we would like him to right now. We wish all those other guys were healthy, but we're very fortunate that he's here and he's really doing a great job. So we got to, start getting some other guys back. But again, certainly I think it was just his consistency last more than anything that caught our eye. And then once he started getting more reps, his instincts started coming out.
In terms of getting more guys back, do you see Nasir and Tyler Williams playing this week?
Yeah, it's kind of, we got to wait and see on those guys. So, I'm not, quite honestly, right now, I'm not sure.
Dave, you mentioned that Anderson came in and started making checks almost right away. Can you think of anybody in your career that has come in that unknown, that started taking charge and being that vocal and contributing in that way right away?
He's certainly one of the faster learners, but I mean, yeah, I've certainly had other guys in my career that just, pick stuff up right away. When I was at Richmond, we had a player, Tim Hightower, that right away as a freshman picked things up and played for us as a true freshman. Certainly Brian Westbrook, when I was at Villanova, was a guy that right away, I mean, he was just so focused and so serious. And Nick was one of these guys that, when we got these guys back and had these meetings, had a notebook and was attentive and just had a lot more maturity than your typical freshman. So it's, I wouldn't say it's common. Every year there might be, every other year you might get a guy like that, but it's also, you have guys like that don't have the opportunity. So I think we have other positions here. Keyshawn Williams, a slot receiver for us, to me has picked things up extremely quick. And, he's just waiting for his opportunity. But if he had to play, he's ready. And he's doing a great job for us on special teams. I mean, the play he made on the first punt was a big time play. We have other guys that I think have picked things up quickly, but, at their position right now, we're healthy, but I'm sure at some point their readiness will be on display.
How important was the play of Kalen Carson this last week in terms of kind of solidifying your secondary? Because I have a feeling that Kalen did more than just that one interception. He played well pretty much throughout the entire game, didn't he?
He did. He was a guy that missed some time in camp for various reasons. But he is long, athletic, and he has instincts. And he's smart. And so he's a guy that, with our corner position, and again, with the number of injuries we had in camp, he was able to jump the depth chart quicker because of the injuries. And then with his level of play so far, he's not looking to give that spot up.
If you ever get everybody back, you would probably feel really great about your depth in the secondary all of a sudden, right?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely, Les, and that's the exciting thing. Whether that ever happens or not, who knows? But I think where it'll really help us is special teams. That I was really excited this year with the depth and with the, since the year of eligibility doesn't count, we probably wouldn't have Keyshawn Williams on our punt team in a normal year. With Taylor Marin and Ja'Cory Roberson, we'd probably be trying to redshirt Keyshawn. But because of the rule that this year doesn't count, you take a player like that and you put him on one or two special teams, and he's really making a big contribution for us. And now if something happens with Taylor or Ja'Cory, he's even more ready to play because he's played in other aspects of the game. Jamal Banks is another guy that's really picking things up well. We got Gavin Holmes in there the other day too. And he made some plays. He had a nice tackle, and he made a nice play on a deep ball that was called a pass interference. But I thought he played that ball as well as you can play it.
Dave, speaking of the penalties, how do you address it? You go one by one, and
you have to go one by one. So, first off, there's no excuse for the false starts. That's just a lack of discipline, especially in the one coming out on the 1 yard line. When you have the whole team in the huddle and say, hey, we're going to hard count them here, hold your water, and you still jump, that's just a lack of focus. Those are the mental errors. We had a hands to the face that we just got to have our hand placement lower. The personal foul that we had on the kickoff return, it's just not a smart play. I mean, it wasn't dirty. It wasn't intentional. but you can't leave your feet like that. We never leave our feet to tackle. So to leave your feet early and then get your body out of control, Zion Keith, I just thought lost track of where he was. He was trying to tackle the guy, and the guy stiff-armed him, and he just kind of gave him a little shove. I thought Zion thought he was near the sidelines. So those ones there are just individual penalties that are just a lack of awareness. So those are the big ones. You had 3 15-yarders, and those ones you can correct. And again, the false start ones are probably the ones that bother me the worst. And, the pass interference calls, those are ones that I was upset when they called them. And when I watched the film, I still wasn't thrilled. Those are objective calls, and those are bang calls that officials have to make. So, I didn't think in either case it was egregious, but those were, again, judgment calls that I'm sure, if you turned them in, you're probably not going to get them to agree with you. So I didn't even bother.
We've talked a few times in the last few weeks about how important it was for the outside receivers to make one-on-one plays on deep balls, but Jacory made 2 one-on-one plays down the field. Taylor made one on his one catch. Is that a new thing that it was emphasized to them last week, or is that something that's always been a function and it just hasn't been utilized as much until this week?
Well, you watched every game last year, Connor. How many times did we throw the ball deep to Scotty Washington, Sage Surratt, or Kendall Hinton? And that's always been part of our offense when we're good. If you put on the film from 14 and 15, we didn't hit too many of those. So as we've got better at the position, that's a big part of our offense. And I thought, the first 2 games of the year, we weren't making those plays. And then, we made some of them against Campbell, but that's against an FCS team. And there's still more of them we should have made. But to make it against an ACC team and an ACC secondary, to me was encouraging. A Torian Perry to make the deep ball catch on the first touchdown. Donovan Green to make the deep ball post catch coming out to get us from the 1-yard line to the 40. Jacory ran a beautiful route to kind of turn the safety, and he did it twice. And then Taylor Marin made a contested catch. So, when you get one-on-one coverage, you have to win. And it just can't be hitches. In this league, people are going to press you, and you got to get released. You got to get separation, and then you got to make contested catches. And if you can't do those things, it's really hard for an offense to function, if you're going to run what we do or what most people do. Now, if, you're Virginia Tech and you're running the quarterback a lot and doing stuff like that, maybe it's not as important. But for us, that's got to be a big part of our offense. And, the difference is we've been making those throws all year. The first 2 games, we didn't make enough of those plays. In the last 2 games, we've made more of them.
Is it also encouraging with AT's growth that his touchdown came the play after he's called for a hold that negates a 37-yard run?
Yeah, I think his ability, when you're playing 80 plays and 70 plays, you got to be able to shake off the previous play. And that's always a challenge for a younger player. And for him to have that holding call and, hey, I didn't do it, but then play the next play and make a catch, little things like that are very encouraging. Now, we've got 7 more games against good football teams. Now, the next challenge is, can you do it for an 11-game season? Can you prepare every week? That's always the difference between, to me, younger players and older players. Older players know what the marathon is. The younger guys think it's a sprint. And now we've got to do it 2 weeks in a row. We had 4 weeks to get ready for Clemson. We had 2 weeks to get ready for Campbell. We had 2 weeks to get ready for Virginia. Now it's a 1-week prep. Let's go. You can't have a bad day.
Dave, how would you grade your linebackers so far this season? And is that a position group you really need to really have their best performance against a heavy run team like Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I mean, I think our linebackers have been solid, but not as productive as they need to be. I thought we played better on Saturday than we have the first 3 games. I think that unit got better. But it's still, in my mind, those guys still need to be more productive. They need to be more productive in the blitz game. There's times that they're doing their assignment and they're in the right gap, but at a certain point, a linebacker's got to rip off a block, shed a block, and make a play. You just can't take up space. And so I thought Jaquez Williams played much better. The very first play of the game, he hit a gap and made a play in the backfield. He made a good hustle play down the field. I thought Jaquez had his best game of the year. Ryan Smenda, we need him to start making more plays for us. And, Ryan knows that. He's a prideful player. He knows what he's doing. And, at a certain point at linebacker, you just got to be able to cut it loose and be instinctive and rip through a gap and make a play and make a tackle. And he's capable of doing it. He's done it in the past. But we're not going to have a shot against Virginia Tech if we're not more productive at linebacker this week.
Dave, how's Christian Beal-Smith? I know he's banged up a little bit, and I know
he's fine.
Okay.
We were concerned, and they went in and checked him out, and the doctors cleared him in the second half. And at that point, Kenneth Walker was hot, so we were going to ride Kenneth. And then when we had a lead there, 14-point lead, we just kind of stayed with Kenneth. But Christian could have gone back in, and he's fine, and he'll be good to go.
It's like you said, you get to play 2 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, it feels like we're in a rush just because all year we've had, other than NC State, we've had so much time to get ready for a game. And, it's good to get into a rhythm.
Dave, I wanted to ask you about Virginia Tech a minute. How difficult is it to prepare looking at film, considering their personnel has been, shorthanded, and then a few more guys in, a few guys out? How tricky has that been?
Well, they were pretty much at full strength against BC. I mean, they didn't have too many guys out, and ever since Hooker went in the second half at Carolina, I mean, they're doing what they want to do. I mean, it doesn't appear they're holding too much of the playbook back. They're still, they were missing an offensive tackle against BC but even without him, they're still a really good O-line. Trey Turner missed a little bit of the game, but we're expecting him to play, but these are good skilled guys. So on offense, we've seen that for the most part, their best players. The place that they really got hit hard was the secondary. And that was, and if you watch the Carolina game, it just, you could tell they were shorthanded. But they certainly looked a lot different. And, you run your defense, it's like a lot of things that, our offense, we believe our offense works, but it works better with better players. And we believe in our defensive system, but it certainly works better with better players. And so they got healthier against BC, and their defense played really well. This is a really good front. Belmar, their defensive end, is an excellent pass rusher. Hewitt, one of their inside players, had a great game against us a year ago. We really struggled blocking him last year. The Ashby's a very experienced linebacker. Hallfield, we know him well. His dad played at Wake Forest. We recruited him hard. Tinsdale, we know him well. He's from Greensboro. These are good players, and they've played a lot of football for him, and these guys are all playing for him. Again, I think Justin's done some of the way the media certainly evaluates coaches is wins and losses and program development, all that stuff. Certainly this year, some of the unspoken challenges are how everyone's managing COVID. And I think Justin's done an amazing job with his football team, with all the players they've missed. and all the coaches they've missed, and to be here 3-1 and playing at the level they are, that's a really good coaching job when you're navigating that many different obstacles and adversities. For him to keep his team together as well as he has, and then for them to play as well as they are, is to me, they're doing an incredible job there.
Dave, how are you feeling about the depth on the O-line?
Oh, Dave, you always want it to be better. I don't know if any coach is ever happy with the depth they have anywhere. Right now we certainly feel comfortable putting Taleni Sarin in there. He went in there for a little bit for Sean McGinn the other day, and he did a nice job. Certainly Devontae Gordon, I think, is an ascending player that is, if he had to play, I think is ready or close to ready. CJ Elmanis, Alan Rapplier, those guys are starting to become older guys, and they've gotten a lot of reps. We're not a team that has typically rotated a lot of guys in our offensive line. I wouldn't mind doing it, but I think sometimes, similar to the secondary, there's a cohesion that develops when you play guys together, and when you just start sticking different parts in there, sometimes the guard affects how the tackle plays or the center plays. And so I think right now those guys are developing a good chemistry, but I'd certainly like to get to the point that we can play 7 or 8 guys. But if we had to play Devontae Gordon or Alan Rapplier or Taleni Sarin, and CJ Elmanis is really coming on nicely for us. And I'm excited about a couple of our freshmen. I think we'll be fine, but I hope we can keep our starters healthy. I hope I don't have to test that depth.
Anything else, guys?
I enjoy doing this at 4 o'clock more than noon. I've watched our practice film. I feel like I'm a lot more informed, and so I don't know. Maybe we, instead of lunch, we do dinner, and Will, you can order steaks and seafood for us every.
Surf and turf.
Yeah, if it was early enough, you guys would be up for that, right?
Count me in.
Okay.
Thanks,
Lauren,
Dave.
you're treating the first time.
Right after Stan's nap.
Hey.
That's why he has a hat on.
Don't begrudge an old guy his afternoon nap. Come on.
That's right.
All right. Anything else?
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Thanks again. Have a great night.